Hi, and welcome to Chapter 2 of Mr. Ford's Guide to the A+ Certification Exam, How to Be a Computer Technician. In this video, we're going to take a look at the general categories of the things that you can find in a computer. Hey, welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed Chapter 1, our introduction videos that talked about what the A+ Certification Exam was, as well as some general guides on how to take the exam, how to pass the exam, and some basic troubleshooting and safety stuff. In Chapter 2, we're going to take a look at the computer components that you're going to find on your average desktop or laptop or any other kind of computer. This is going to allow us to kind of take a broad overview of the different parts that make up, like I said, the computer. One of the advantages of being able to do video is that unlike a book where you might be worried about missing something, or you can't skip a chapter, or you get kind of pulled down to stuff, the videos are short 10-minute, 15-minute max videos where you can pick and choose what you need to know. Now, I would recommend for people who are new to this, for the neophyte, to go through all of these videos because it will give you a good foundation for not only the certification exam, but also just how to fix computers. Now, if you're a more experienced computer repair person, if you've been in the field for a while, these series of videos might not so much be for you because we are going to just talk about the basics. So, for example, I'll introduce what a motherboard is and what the function of a motherboard. In other chapters, we're going to go into each of these components in a lot more detail. So I'm planning on having a separate series of videos, separate chapter, just on the motherboard. In fact, I think that's going to be Chapter 3. Chapter 4 is probably going to wind up being processors, CPUs. So we introduced the components in this series of videos in Chapter 2, and in subsequent chapters, we go into all of this in much more detail. So again, if you're the more experienced computer repair person, then Chapter 2 might not be for you. You might want to skip to the next chapter. If you're new to computers, then definitely don't skip Chapter 2. So let's start talking about just what do we find typically in a computer. Well, we have two general categories of components. We have the hardware, and this is the physical things in and on the computer. This is the stuff that you can touch. So, for example, a motherboard, a CPU, a keyboard, a monitor, a hard drive. These are all hardware. These are all physical items that you can touch, you can kick, you can hit with a bat, all that stuff. And there's a great quote from Steve Wozniak. Steve Wozniak, of course, being the co-founder of Apple, which said, he said, never trust a computer you can't throw out a window. I think that's kind of funny given how small Apple products have become over the years. The next general category would be software. Software is what runs on the computer, and you have something called an operating system, which runs the computer itself. It communicates between the user, which would be you, and the hardware. So it kind of keeps track of all that stuff. It allows things to happen. And then, of course, you have the applications. Very few people ever go out and buy a computer for the operating system. Nobody goes, ooh, wow, I'm going to go buy a computer because it has Windows on it. I'm going to go buy a computer because I want Mac. You buy a computer typically based on an application. So you might buy a computer because you want to run Microsoft Office products. Or you might buy a computer because you want to run video editing software on it, visual communication software on it. You might buy a computer because you want to play the latest and greatest game. So applications are the fun stuff. These are the video games, the Office products, the suites, the productivity things, the digital stuff, the digital editing stuff. These are applications. So once again, really quick, we have the two categories of components. We have the hardware and we have the software. Now, breaking down the hardware into more categories, we have things called, or things that can be classified as processing. Things within the processing world would include things like the central processing unit, the CPU, the video processing unit, GPU, and the motherboard. And we are going to go into each of those, again, in much more excruciating detail, which is what you need to know for the exam. Then we have storage. Storage, of course, is stuff that holds information. So, for example, a hard drive would be an example of a storage device. random access memory, RAM, video memory, VRAM, flash drives, removable media such as CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, the old floppy drive, floppy disks. These are all examples of storage components. Then we have input, things that you get information into the computer with, such as keyboards, a mouse, a gamepad, a scanner, touchscreen, a NIC, otherwise a network interface card. So those would be input devices. Then we have output. This is getting information out of the computer. And we have things such as the video card, which gives you video display so you can see stuff. Your printer, which gives you hard copy, something you can print out and take with you. Audio, so if you're listening to me right now, you're hearing things, that would be audio. Network interface card, which is both an input and output device. And finally, we're also going to talk about a miscellaneous category, for example, the computer case and the power supply. So that was a quick overview of what we're going to look at in Chapter 2. In the next video, in video 2 in Chapter 2, we're going to take a look at that whole processing category. So we'll see you for our next video.